So, welcome to the next edition of the Rare Business Podcast. With me today, I have Laurence Chami, who is Managing Director of E. Hi, Laurence.
Hi, Adrian.
How are you doing? Are you very well today?
Yes, very well. And you?
Fantastic, fantastic. So, Laurence, for the benefit of our listeners and readers, can you tell us a bit about you and a bit about the work that you do?
Yes, of course. So I'm working with Eptica. Eptica is a European company providing a multi-channel and multilingual customer engagement platform software.
Uh-huh.
So we are a French company based in the UK, in Singapore, and in France.
Mm-hmm.
And on my side, I joined Eptica 4 years ago. Before I was working more in the marketing service provider area. And I'm currently the managing director and working closely in the UK and France.
Fantastic. Now, Laurence, I invited you on the podcast. I mean, one, because I'd met and spoken to Olivier, who is your president and CEO, I think, and we were talking about the role of email as being very much part of the future of customer service and not the past. Because I mean, an email as a channel sometimes gets a lot of bad press. Some people say that it's not much used or people aren't investing in it. So first of all, there's all sorts of reports and data saying that many firms are turning off email as a channel. I mean, what's your experience in this? Is this right, and to what extent?
Yeah, I mean, first, what is really interesting is to see that there are differences on both sides of the channel. If we look at the UK, as you probably know, we run a multi-channel customer experience study every year since 5 years now, both in the UK and France. And when we look at the UK and we look at the past, in 2011, for instance, 87% of the companies were providing email contact to their website. Mm-hmm. And currently, when we look at that, only 71% do. So it clearly means that there is a drop in the UK. Mm-hmm. And if you look a little bit more in detail, and in that study, we send an email to 100 leading companies in all activity sectors, and we look at what happens. And when we did that, not only 71% of the companies were providing email contact on their website, but on those 71%, only 41% were giving an accurate answer. So clearly, this means that first we see a drop, and second, we see also that the quality of the answers are not good. If we look at France, the situation is totally different because in fact, the number of companies that are providing email in their website is increasing. It was 74% in the past, and now in 2014 it was 81%.
Right.
And the situation is a little bit different because in France, people are pushing email to avoid phone calls that are much more expensive.
Right.
So it's interesting to see there the difference. In our market, and when we speak with prospects, clearly we believe that it's not right to do that. First, because if a customer wants to contact his brand by email, we should take into account the choice of the consumer, because if we don't, I'm sure that you will share that, he clearly will be annoyed and he will go to any other channel, and it might be more expensive for the company as well.
Sure.
So that's what we see, and clearly I think that why companies are, and especially in the UK, dropping emails for the time being, it's just because it's not easy to manage emails, and you have to put in place an organization and some tools to help you to manage those emails.
So it's interesting that there's different companies depending if you're on different geographies, or so in France, it's the consumers that are driving the preference for email in because it's a cost consideration for them, and companies are responding. I mean, do you find that in the UK that consumers are still wanting kind of email, or is it that they're not really wanting email and therefore companies are turning it off? Or is it that companies are not necessarily listening to the consumers and are just turning the emails off because they're harder to manage?
No, in fact, as in France, it's not the consumer choice, it's also the company choice, because for them, having people answering on the phone is more costly than having people answering to emails, because obviously you don't have the communication costs.
Yeah.
But also it's easier to manage email because you can answer. You are not obliged to answer. I mean, you can answer after. I mean, it's easier to manage the time of your agent in the contact center.
Right.
In the UK, we believe that the consumer reacts the same. I think that it's more the companies and the organization that are struggling to manage emails, because again, if you are just using, I mean, Outlook or Gmail or Lotus Notes, it's going to be very difficult to manage thousands of emails arriving every day.
Sure. Okay. I mean, yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, so what's Eptica's view on? I mean, I hear conflicting reports around emails will disappear, what with social messaging platforms and live chat and forums and all those different things. I mean, what's Eptica's view on email? Is it very much a part of the future of customer service, or is it going to fade away?
No, for us, it's very much part of the future the future. First, because customers, they do like emails. First, because it's flexible. They can send the email at their own time. They can do that at work during the day. They can do that in the evening, and they don't have to speak to someone. Sometimes it's easier to write for some people. And if you look at some studies, for instance, like Forrester does, they say that 58% of the customers want to communicate with their brands by email. So that's one. And also for the consumer, it's a way to have something in writing, because they are going to write a question and they will get a written answer. So they feel sometimes more confident to have something in writing, because then the organization or their brand will have to commit to what they have said, because it's in writing.
Okay.
So that's one. On the other side, for the organizations and our customers, our prospects, as I was saying before, it's not a real-time channel. So it gives the agent some time to think about the answer. They can go and find information on other systems to really complete the answers they will make to the consumer. It's cheaper than the phone channel because clearly you don't have the communication, and it's also easier if they need to have some material to support the information they have to give to the consumer. So it's in both sides. It's interesting, and again, if we look at some of the statistics, it's a growing channel. We have more and more emails that are exchanged by day, and now with the smartphones, people can access their emails everywhere. So not only people are using email, but they also want to use email in a mobile environment. So for us, if you just look at figures, not at our customers, but at the market, at figures, it is a growing channel.
But it is seen as one of the most difficult channels to manage, recruit for, and also train your people in. I mean, is that in your experience? I mean, you said that's true. I mean, what are the leading firms that you're working with? What are they doing to address that? Is it just all about fundamental training and but also the right sort of technology and systems to support that?
It is part of it. I mean, if we look at and it's interesting to see that there is no one answer to that question, and every firm thinks that they have the right solution, and they change. They change all the time. So that's what makes our job interesting. But if you look at customer services staff, you really have people that are more the talkers, and the ones that are the typers, so really the ones that are able to write in a correct manner. And you need to have both skills in a contact center, but clearly you will not have all the time both skills with one individual. So you need to take that into account as well in your organization, and you have to make sure that you are going to treat email in a professional way. And in a professional way means that the person has to write the correct manner. They have to have the tools to help them to give the correct answer to the consumer. So to have, for instance, a knowledge base that they could use to pick the right answer if it's about a procedure, it's about a specific information, so they can just go and take the existing information and get the knowledge by themselves. It's also a way to train them, because one of the biggest challenge, and you just mentioned it, it's training. You will still have it over the phone, but training is one of the key challenges that you will have. So making sure that you put in place a tool like a knowledge base to allow your agents to access the information, and it will help clearly for training. And there are other tools that are interesting to use, such as systems to manage email, obviously, that are combining also linguistics, for instance. We start to see that as well as an emerging technique, which means that an email that is going to come through the organization will go through a process where the system is going to analyze the content of the email, so to understand about what the consumer is speaking, and also the tone of the consumer. Is it happy? Is he angry? So it helps also the contact center with those kind of tools to make sure that the right person is going to answer to some of the questions, depending on their skills and their ability to manage the email channel.
Okay. I mean, that sounds like using sort of text analytics and intelligent agent software to sort of link the sort of email channel with the knowledge base.
Yeah.
So, but one of the things that I was thinking, because given all this explosion of channels in this omni-channel, multi-channel, whatever environment we call it in right now, is that, and also given our background in terms of how we organize business, I mean, it's like it all goes all the way back to, forgive me because my background as an economist, it goes all the way back to Adam Smith and his kind of analogy of the pin factory and specialization and all those different things. So, but there's a debate right now, I think, or an issue within customer service and customer experience about how do you best organize customer service teams. I mean, on the one hand, there's one camp is saying that we should be developing these super agents that are multi-skilled, highly trained, multilingual, that can manage across a whole series of channels, because actually that's what a customer kind of wants. They want to speak to one person about one problem and have that person just be able to fix the one problem, because that's it. And then there's the other camp which says actually that's too complicated and we need to have specialized people in specialized channels with specialized skills. I mean, because the skill set's too diverse, you can't have one person handle all of those kind of channels. I mean, so what's your experience of kind of what firms are doing and where they're tending to go? Are they tending to go down the specialization route or the super agent route?
There is a mix. Obviously, there is not a one answer again to that question. That's the dream. I mean, clearly you've said that the dream of our customers is to have the perfect agent knowing everything about everything in the company and being able to answer in any channel. That's not reality, clearly. But it depends also on the sector and the company.
Can I challenge that? I mean, why is that not reality? I mean, because I think here's the thing. I mean, there is also a basic assumption in all of this. I think is that we look at. Well, here's the interesting thing that I think about is that if our customer service and our call center sort of people effectively are our brand ambassadors. They are our front line they are the front line for many firms. But in many firms, sometimes they are and I'm not saying this is for all firms, but in many firms they don't necessarily get the respect that they deserve, and they don't necessarily get the pay, the reward, and the incentives that they deserve, and not necessarily also to deserve, but also to attract the right sort of talent into those roles. So here's the conundrum: if you want the super sort of skilled people, should you not really have the right sort of pay and incentives and rewards in place to attract the talents?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But it's not only about talent and about knowledge, because if you look, for instance, at the banking sector, you will not have the same person handling a request on a credit card or on an account and giving to that same customer advice on what type of investment they should do. Because even if the person in the contact center is really skilled and knows everything about the brand and so on, that's another job to be able to do some advice on investment, for instance. So that's where I'm saying that it's difficult to have one person knowing everything and being able to handle all channels. And also because, as you said, companies are looking at costs, and that's a shame, but they are looking at having cost-effective contact centers, and in that direction they tend to specialize people on what we will say the first line and second line customer service. So first line to handle basic requests, or people that are new to the company, so they don't know everything about the company, and then put more skilled people on the second line support, where they will have clearly more skills and also the ability to manage more difficult situations. You can be very skilled and be very knowledgeable about the company, but not having the skills to manage a difficult situation where you have a customer that is very angry about something that did happen to him. So it's not only about knowledge. It's not only about your ability to understand the organization and the product and everything about the company you are representing, but it's also about your own capability to manage certain situations. So you have also that to take into account. And then if you look at channels, I'm not young anymore, so very young anymore, but I tend to see with my customers that to handle chat, they don't take people. I mean, it can happen, but most of the time they tend to dedicate younger people to chat and to social media, just because they were born with those channels nearly, so they are more familiar with them. And I think that having also that, so that's a kind of specialization, but you should not, and customers are not doing that. They don't specialize too much, because it's also a way to motivate the agents to give them different type of requests to manage different topics, and also to give them the ability to work on different channels. They like it as well. But that's part of the challenge. And again, there is not one answer. I think that the firms, they are just trying and experiencing different ways of organizing.
Well, I mean, it's fascinating. It's a big it's a big choice, I think.
Yeah.
And as you rightly say, I think there's not necessarily an obvious right answer.
No.
I think that you're absolutely right that no single man or woman can know all things.
No.
And be that super agent across multiple products and services, but actually maybe having one person that can be a specialist in one product or service across a number of channels may be the way that they can go. But we will see how it all develops. But it is an interesting and serious kind of challenge. And email is a fascinating challenge in and of itself because of the requirement that it means that you've got to be able to write in a not in a text fashion or in a live chat fashion or a sort of social media post sort of chat fashion, but you've actually got to be able to write in a reasonably coherent and grammatically correct sort of like way, which is, we'd think that'd be an obvious skill that most people will have, but actually a lot of people aren't necessarily as comfortable as we'd like to think that they are in terms of when it comes to writing.
No, you're right. You're right. But that's the reason why also with some tools, I mean, the tools you can have to help you to manage emails, you have the knowledge-based piece that it's helping the agents, but obviously they will still have to personalize the answer, and that's what also consumers are expecting. They don't want to have ready-made answers to all their questions. They also want to feel that there is a human behind the email that is answering to their questions. So that's the challenge.
Yeah. So, Laurence, just in the interest of time, I mean, when it comes to sort of email and customer service, or just generally multi-channel customer experience, I mean, have you had any final thoughts? Anything else you'd like to add? Top tips for our readers and listeners?
Not really, but maybe to share some experience. I mean, as you know, we are providing those kind of solutions, and just maybe to give to the audience some ideas about what they could achieve by having a solution to help them to manage emails. For instance, if I can just share one or two examples, we are, for instance, working with TUI. The travel company, and when they did install Eptica to manage their emails, in fact, they really had a big challenge because the number of emails were increasing a lot, and they were not really keen to increase a lot the team to manage those emails, and they had a challenge in terms of productivity there. And by having the tool, they really they raised the productivity by 40%. An agent moved to 7 to 12 emails managed per hour. So it really means that when you have a system to help the agent to manage emails, he can do more than not having a system. So it's increasing. There are solutions to help organizations to manage the emails. And more important, I think that we should listen to our customers as organizations. So if a consumer wants to ask you a question via email, you should give him that opportunity because he has chosen that channel for a reason.
Sure. Laurence, I think I'm looking forward to seeing how companies sort of respond to this. I mean, because I think that whilst email may not necessarily be as sexy as live chat and intelligent agents and social media and even kind of live video sort of blogs and video feeds and things, all those sort of new channels, it's surprising kind of how important it really is and how much of, I think, the future it will still be. And I think that companies will ignore it and don't give it the attention and investment that it requires at their peril. And so anyway, but apart from all of that, that's really interesting, and thank you so much for your time. I mean, it's been interesting, and I'm quite glad that we got a chance to sort of bang the drum on for email, because I think it's an important channel.
Yes, it is.
But thank you so much for your time and insight today. That's been brilliant.
Thank you very much. Thanks to you.